Sorry for the delay. It's been an eventful day, but what's the day in a startup without any technical interferences, right? But anyways, without further ado, hi, warm welcome. I am Amanda Teo, Head of Engagements and Partnerships at Asia Startup Network, and I will be your host for today. So we are very happy to partner with Enterprise Singapore to bring to you today's session on demystifying the types of grants and schemes available for you all as early stage founders and entrepreneurs to adopt for your respective businesses. So before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Elise, who is the co-founder of Asia Startup Network, to come up and say a few words. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here. So today, this is part of our Funding Insights session. We have kicked off with one in Jakarta. So now ASN is present in both Jakarta as well as Singapore. We were talking about what are the pockets of fundraising opportunities. And then today we are going to invite our Enterprise Singapore partner to share on grants. Yeah, so as you know, grants and obviously VC funding and funding from other sources all come hand in hand in terms of helping to power and fuel the growth of startups. So feel free to ask questions along the way. Yeah, so really glad to see all of you here. And then apart from that, we also welcome you to the ASN community. So I started Makan for Hope, Mentor for Hope back in 2020, and we have been growing this startup community ever since with the help of our ecosystem partners like Enterprise Singapore, as well as VC partners, incubators, and accelerators. Yeah, so if you are in any of these capacity and you would like to co-organize events with us, to help educate or to bring the community together, please reach out to us. Yeah, so I hope you have a meaningful session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Hilary?
Give me a moment.
1 second, please.
1 second. I need someone to press the slides.
Thank you, Elise. Let me just introduce you to Hilary, our Enterprise SG partner, who will kick off today's session.
Thank you everyone for coming down today. So I'm Hilary from the startup team at Enterprise Singapore. I'd like to firstly start off by giving a big shout out to the Asia Network team, Amanda, Elise and Andrew, for organizing this with us and also reaching out to the community, the startup community, to basically share more about Startup SG, Enterprise SG, and what we do here in the government sector. So next. So this is the brief overview as to what I'll be covering today. So giving you a short introduction to Enterprise Singapore and what we do here, giving also a short introduction to the state of play as to how our ecosystem actually looks like at present, and also the last but not least, sharing about how startups can benefit from Startup SG, which is basically why you guys are all here today. So next slide. So a little bit more about Enterprise Singapore. So Enterprise Singapore is a government agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and we are the government agency championing enterprise development. So the mission is basically to grow strong Singapore enterprises by building capabilities and helping our enterprises access global opportunities to expand overseas. And the outcome is basically to help to create good jobs for Singaporeans. Next. So these are the 4 pillars that we cover here in Enterprise Singapore. So the startup team actually looks at the 3rd pillar, which is developing Singapore into a top startup hub. And we do this through our suite of Startup SG schemes, which I'll be touching on a bit later. Next. So now you might be wondering how the state of play actually looks like in the startup ecosystem. And Singapore is well positioned as a global Asian node for technology, innovation, and enterprise. As you can see on the screen, over the years we've won many awards from notable publications, notable publications, basically shouting out how Singapore is the ideal place to do business. We have a strong IP. We also have an ideal business environment for business, and we're also very competitive on the talent front. Next. So this is actually an overview of the Singapore startup ecosystem, and we could not have achieved all those success as you could see in the previous slide without our partners. So we have a strong, extensive network of research institutions, for instance, A-STAR, and also our universities such as National University of Singapore and Nanyang Technological University, which are placed actually very high amongst the global rankings for universities in Singapore. We also have many multinational corporations and corporates that are ready to innovate and actually implement solutions for startups, for instance, CapitaLand, Meta, with HQs in Singapore. We also have a very strong and also very extensive venture capital network, basically more than 400 venture VCs and also angel networks in Singapore, and it's quite a lot considering the size of our country. And we also have more than 230 accelerators and incubators, including notable companies such as 500, Accelerating Asia, Antler in our country, to basically help to build up the startup ecosystem and guide our early stage startups along the way in their growth journey. So not only that, we also have very big communities, we call them startup communities. The first being Asian Community for Entrepreneurship, Action Community for Entrepreneurship, which is ACE. They are our trade associations for startups. So if any of you are interested to get plugged into the ecosystem, you can search up ACE and also join the membership. We also have SG Innovate, which actually takes care of the deep tech community in Singapore, and also SG Tech, for a community for tech-enabled businesses. So with all these partners, we have actually managed to build up quite a vibrant ecosystem, over 4,000 tech startups in Singapore, a very vibrant financing scene, and also minted more than 31 unicorns up to date, Singapore unicorns. Yeah. Next. Besides growing the whole startup hub, so the deep tech sector has been a sector that the government has actually been placing more emphasis in. So we're proud to say that Singapore leads in Southeast Asia as a hub for deep tech innovations, and we've seen a growth in deep tech funding over the years. So more than 70% increase in deep tech funding from 2020 to 2022, with USD 1.95 billion in deep tech funding in 2022 alone. And the government has also been pumping in a lot of efforts into research, innovation, enterprise. More than 25 billion will be committed from 2021 to 2025 to basically grow the deep tech sector. So if you're a startup in the deep tech space, Singapore is a great ecosystem for you to basically build your company and also grow from here. So besides that, we also noticed that in the deep tech side, we have seen increasing interest in the health tech and the green tech scene, especially in certain areas such as biopharma, AI diagnostics. So if you're in those areas, we also see that there's increasing interest from the investor side. So it's a great ecosystem if you're especially in these areas. Next. So going very quickly to the main highlight of the presentation today, which is basically talking more about the initiatives and the grant schemes that we have at Startup SG. So next, this is just basically an overview of the different areas that we lend support to our startups. So we work very closely with our partners to support startups in their growth journeys from early stage all the way to later stages in different areas, for instance, financing, talent, mentorship, test bidding of opportunities, as well as facilitating global connections. Next. So I'll basically bring you through all of the grant schemes, so just bear with me because it's quite a lot of programs, and I'll just be touching very briefly on all the programs. If you want more information, you can also check out the Startup SG website for greater details on what actually we support and also the eligibility criteria for each grant scheme. So moving very quickly to the first scheme, which is basically providing smart money and growth capital through our co-investment arm. Our investment arm, Seeds Capital. So Seeds Capital is actually our investment arm that adopts a co-investment structure where they work very closely with institutional private investors to co-invest into deep tech startups. So the intention of the scheme is basically to catalyze private investments into the deep tech sector and deep tech startups to help these investors de-risk. So over the years, over a few years, Seed Capital has actually invested in more than 350 companies and has deployed more than $140 million into deep tech startups, making over 130 deals over the years. So if you're a deep tech startup that is thinking of fundraising, you can also check out the list of close to 60 partners on the Startup SG website, and so reach out to the partners to basically fundraise. Yeah. Next. besides that, we also have an event that we organize. It's called Deal Fridays. Deal Fridays is basically a platform where we connect startups to investors, startups that are ready to seek investments, to investors and corporates that are ready to also innovate with these startups. So it's basically a pitching session where we give them the platform to pitch their innovative solutions to investors. And and just last year, we actually organized 11 sessions focusing on different deep tech domains, for instance, agri-tech, food tech, transport and logistics, and many more. And the outcomes is that we actually managed to reach out to close to 800 attendees, over 500 investors, and in terms of outcomes, close to 500 connections made between startups, investors, and corporates. And out of these 500 startups, actually very happy to announce that close to 8 of the companies that pitched at Deal Fridays actually raised funds within 1 year from participating in Deal Fridays. So Deal Fridays 2023 has just recently launched, so if you're an investor and you're keen to find out about certain domains such as space tech, agri-tech, you can also check out the website and also register your interest to apply and also turn up for the event. Yeah. Next. So besides financing, capital is also, talent is also a very crucial part of the startups. And we also recognize that many startups actually face challenges in terms of getting the critical talent that they need to actually work in the startups to help the startups grow. So as such, we have different talent schemes under the startup talent bucket to actually help our startups deal with these talent challenges. So for instance, to attract top talent, we actually have Entrepass. So Entrepass is a work visa for foreign entrepreneurs for them to basically explore Singapore for duration of 1 year to understand the market and to see whether Singapore is ultimately a place for them that they want to land their businesses and to grow their businesses. So
this Entrepass,
yes.
Is there a minimum in terms of capitalization of the company when they started?
So for Entrepass, the criteria is not really based on capitalization. So the two criteria is that you either have to be venture backed or you have the innovative technologies. So that's the assessment as to whether you can qualify for Entrepass, and it's a 1 year no strings attached pass with opportunity for renewal based on certain criteria. If you meet the certain criteria, which is related to business spendings and also number of Singapore employees employed. Yeah.
This gives under MOM or
it's supported by MOM. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, will this slide deck be available later? Or should we
Yes. I'll send over the slide deck. But we also hope that you don't share it externally, so just keep it to yourself. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah. So that's for Entrepass. So if any foreign entrepreneurs are keen to explore Singapore, you can definitely consider applying for Entrepass. And if you have any other questions on Entrepass later, my colleague at the back helps with the Entrepass scheme, so you can check out again and look for him to find out more about Entrepass. Yeah. So for the next scheme that we have, Tech at SG, basically it's a program that is jointly developed by EDB and ESG to help fast growth tech companies obtain critical talent. And critical talent meaning obtaining up to 10 employment passes over a duration for 2 years if you meet the criteria for Tech at SG. So besides that, we also have the Global Tech Talent Alliance. It's a pilot program that helps to give early stage startups access to regional tech talent pools. We understand that as a government agency, we understand that talent is getting increasingly expensive, and also a lot of the startups want to explore international markets. So as such, under the Global Tech Talent Alliance program, we've actually partnered with in-market partners in India as well as Vietnam to basically provide a curated list of services for startups to tap on if they're thinking of expanding to these markets. So if you're keen to find out more, you can check out the website, the Startup SG website, under Global Tech Alliance program to actually look at the partners that we actually partner with to provide these services.
What kind of services are these?
Basically, it's a bit like offshoring services, helping to form a team in the international markets to explore the markets for expansion. Yeah. Next. So besides that, we also understand that building capabilities is quite crucial when it comes to the startups and also building up the team locally. So for that, we also have the Global Ready Talent Program. It's a program that actually helps businesses build a pipeline of global ready young talent through internships and overseas postings. So what this is that basically you can access polytechnics, university students, get them to work in your startups, and the government will actually help to subsidize up to 70% of their salaries in terms of stipends. So it's really to encourage the young to consider entrepreneurship and also to gain exposure in working in startups. For T-Up, it's mainly for deep tech businesses that are in the deep tech sector are looking for deep tech talent. So what the T-Up program is that it helps businesses access research scientists, engineers from A-Star to basically implement R&D and also research projects in the SMEs or in the businesses for up to 2 years. So if you're interested in looking at R&D innovation projects and tapping on talent such as A-Star scientists, you can also consider this program. And lastly, under the Innovation Enterprise Fellowship Program, it's basically to also develop deep tech technical talent for placement within the industries, which is also targeted at researchers and scientists that are keen on kind of exploring commercial paths. Next. So besides talent, we also have different programs that aim to target mentorship and support. So for first-time entrepreneurs, first-time local Singapore entrepreneurs, we have the Startup SG Founder Grant. So it's a 50K grant that we give to startup founders for a duration of 12 months, where they work very closely with what we term as accredited mentor partners, which are basically accelerator and incubator partners, to provide 12 months of mentorship as they kickstart their business and their journeys with growing a startup. So these are just some examples of partners that we work with for this grant. And not really that related to you, but we also support partners such as accelerators, incubators, venture builders through the Startup SG Accelerator program. So we actually work with them very closely to extend support to actually get more Singapore startups on board of their programs. And these are just a few examples of the partners that we work with. So if you go on the Startup SG website, you can also see a list of partners that we work with, so you can consider applying for the accelerator programs if you're keen to grow your business in these areas. Next. So another area that we actually support startups in is also creating opportunities for test bidding. So for deep tech startups with innovative and proprietary solutions, we have the Startup SG Tech Grant, which is actually for deep tech commercialization. So if any of you are from a deep tech startup and are keen on actually exploring POCs, proof of concepts, and also POVs, proof of value projects, this is something that is for you. So it's a grant of basically up to 750K. For POCs and POV projects with deep tech companies with proprietary IP and also scalable business models. And under the Open Innovation Network, the Open Innovation Network is for startups that basically want to access corporates. So it's a platform where you can, with corporates, where we actually work very closely with corporates to put out problem statements and challenge statements to solve internal problems, or to actually tap on these startups to implement solutions within the company. So if any of the startups are keen to access corporates, you can also check out the Open Innovation Network. So we can see on the slide that we've actually run close to 160 innovation calls with over 1,000 challenge statements. So this is a good way to actually test your solutions with corporates. Next. So besides all these programs, what we also aim to do at Startup SG is also to build a community. And we do on two fronts, basically a physical community and also a virtual community. So the physical community being the Startup SG infrastructure. So what we hope to do is also provide space for startups to grow and experiment and also implement their solutions. And the JTC Launchpad is also one of the places that actually allow, the JTC Launchpad is actually one of those places where we actually work with startups to get rentals at subsidized rates for them to get tapped into the community, because at the JTC Launchpad, besides startups, there are also ecosystem partners and investors, early stage investors in the community. So it's basically for community building as well. And besides the JTC Launchpad at One North, we also have the Launchpad at Jurong Innovation District, mainly targeting manufacturing startups, and also the Singapore Water Exchange, which is basically a community for water startups. So besides that, we also want to ensure that you're plugged into the ecosystem, not only physically, but also virtually. And as such, we have the Startup SG Network, is what we term as the LinkedIn for startups. So it's a bit like a network and a directory with all the startups, ecosystem players, accelerators, incubators, investors, angel investors on this platform. And basically the platform is also for you to profile your startup, connect with these players that you want to partner with and also collaborate with, and also discover new opportunities such as deal making, as we have certain features that can facilitate that. So if you're keen to actually join the StartSG network, you can actually scan the QR code here to be plugged into the ecosystem. There will be updates about events that are happening within our community and also about latest news in the community as well. So the Singapore market is pretty small, and we understand that basically the next goal for all the startups is also to go global. So we have the Global Innovation Alliance to help to facilitate global connections and help startups expand overseas. So for this, we actually have a network of partners in many cities across the world, and we work with these in-market partners to conduct accelerator programs, 3-month accelerator programs to help them basically understand the market, learn more about the market, and also there will be immersion part of the program where startups actually can visit these markets and get to know the partners in the markets, whether it's investors, whether it's corporates, or whether it's clients in the market. And basically, in-market partner will help to facilitate these connections through the program. Next. So we have the GIA programs operating in close to 17 cities worldwide. So besides Asia, there's also Europe and also US. So these are the markets that we are currently in at the moment. And how it is run is that it's on a rolling basis. So there will be calls for applications when certain programs come about. So if you're interested in any of these cities, and if you're eyeing any of these cities for your next expansion, this is a good program to basically understand the market and get to know the people in the market, understand whether this market is right for you before actually making a move to go overseas. Yeah, so you can also check out the Global Innovation Alliance website on Entrepass-SG website to find out more about the different call applications. So another another program that we have to facilitate cross-border innovation is the co-innovation program, and for this we actually have it in 37 different countries. So what exactly is the co-innovation program? It's a bilateral, multilateral partnership with other governments that facilitates basically R&D and innovation projects for Singapore companies to work with companies from participating countries. So if this is something of interest, you can also check it out at the Entrepass-SG website. So besides all these programs, we also hope to promote the Singapore ecosystem, and we have something called the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology Switch. So it's basically a leading deep tech festival, 1 week duration, where we invite different partners across the world, startups, investors, different partners to come down to Singapore and basically get immersed in a whole week of innovation. So you can look forward to leadership conventions, networking sessions, showcase and exhibitions that are basically set up by our startups and also partners. And another interesting part about Switch is also Slingshot. So Slingshot is basically a pitching competition, the biggest deep tech pitching competition in Singapore, where we actually get promising startups all over the world to showcase their solutions to investors, corporates, and startups around the world. So if any of you are keen to actually showcase yourself and tap on this platform to actually get to know different parties, this is something that you can consider. So so if you can scan the QR code to basically find out more. I believe that Switch is running from mid-October to early November this year. So it's going to be at the Marina Bay Sands, so you can look up the dates and also check out and also sign up for the free trade passes. So besides that, I also added in one tiny last slide on other grant schemes beyond StartSG grant schemes. So just to caveat, these are StartSG grant schemes. No, these are Entrepass-SG grant schemes. So it applies to not only startups but also SMEs in general. So you might need to take a look at eligibility criteria to ensure that you qualify for these grant schemes. But firstly, just wanted to tap on to showcase different grant schemes so that you can consider it as you progress down your journey. So the first one is the Enterprise Development Grant. So it's intended to help Singapore companies grow and transform, and it supports different areas such as building core capabilities beyond the foundations. For instance, in areas such as business development, financial management, marketing, and brand and marketing development. And also on the innovation and productivity front, basically to support startups to explore new growth areas and also increase efficiency, such as through automation, process redesign. Another solution that might be a bit more relevant to startups is basically the productivity solution grant. So it's for companies that are keen to adopt IT solutions and equipment to enhance business processes. So these grants are basically off-the-shelf grants, and there's a list of readily adoptable solutions by different parties. So for this, I believe there's no financial assessment. So for certain EDGs especially, financial assessment might be a barrier that startups cannot meet. But for TSG, if startups are keen, I think this is something that you can consider as well. And lastly, for the Market Readiness Assistance Grant, it's another grant to help companies take their business overseas. So it supports different areas such as overseas market promotion, overseas business development, overseas market setup, and support is capped at 100,000 per market, per company. And what's good about this is that if you expand to different markets, you can tap on different pools of money. Yeah. So I think that brings me to the end of the presentation. You can scan this QR code to find out more about the different grant schemes from Startup SG. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me at my email here, or you can ask me the questions at Q&A later. Yeah. So maybe I can open the floor to Q&A. Online audience as well. If you have any questions, you can type them, or you can unmute. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Okay, unmute yourselves to ask questions. Yes.
Hi there, can you hear me?
I think part 4 you get a startup SG grant of 50K, which
Yes.
you get mentorship through the accelerators. Granted, so you apply to startup SG or the accelerators?
You apply to, I believe you apply to Startup SG, but you have to get a recommendation letter from the accelerators and the partners. We call them accredited mentor partners. So we actually have a list of accredited mentor partners on the website. So you have to approach them to ask them whether they're keen to back your idea, and from there, with the recommendation letter, apply directly to Startup SG.
Do they get anything out of it, or all the money basically going to them?
No, the money goes to the startups directly. So it's actually dispersed in a few tranches. So upon the start of, it's 50K, so at the start of the 1 year duration, you get 25K, and upon completion of milestones, as and when it's finished, whether it's the 8-month, 12-month mark, then you unlock the next 25K. Yes.
Yeah. So online, there's someone who asked if there's an Entrepass that's issued through Antler or Entrepreneur First.
Yes.
And then are we still eligible to apply for other grants?
Um,
I think given that they have gotten an Entrepass.
yes.
Yeah, I think it's mutually exclusive.
Yeah, so the Entrepass is separate from other passes, so from other grants. So as long as you qualify for the eligibility criteria for the other grants, you can also qualify. You can be on Entrepass and also tap on other grants. But usually there's a local shareholding for most of the grants that we have under Startup SG, so you might not qualify if you're on the Entrepass. Maybe just a show of hands to see how many startups are there on the ground. Oh, that's quite a lot. Any questions from the startups? Oh yes, sure.
For the startup question.
Yes.
I work with startups.
Yeah.
And just now you mentioned that there's support for green tech startups. And the earliest interest. Could you elaborate more, because everybody see how would I would say green tech startup can implement?
So I'm not exactly sure whether there's support particularly for green tech startups, but the slide was actually to show how there's increasing interest in areas such as green tech. And also green tech is an area that is supported by seed capital, because seed capital invests in deep tech startups, and that is definitely a domain that seed capital invests in as well. So if startups have a scalable business model, have proprietary IP, they can also consider, and they are seeking investment, they can consider reaching out to seed capital or co-investment partners in the list that also invest with seed capital to raise funds.
So no specific channels for.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
If you're shy, it's okay. You can find me later. Yes.
So, I don't know, a product startup providing tech ops consultancy. is anything in here in terms of startup with which I can, sorry, grants or programs I can take to the startup to say, hey, you can use this to use my services, things like that?
You can potentially consider seeing whether you qualify as a partner for productivity solution grants. Yeah. So I'm not too sure what the criteria is because I don't really administer this grant directly, but you can go on the website to see whether it's possible to apply as a partner that, to list your solutions under the productivity solution grants or under the enterprise development grants, because we work, there are a list of approved partners that that companies can work with for these grants.
So what I do doesn't it doesn't involve any. I don't own any products or services that I need.
So there's also
like
consultancy projects as well. Yes. Yes. So there's a local component and also overseas component. So it's internships and also, if I'm not wrong, fresh grad opportunities to for businesses to explore global markets. So how it works is that there's some sort of subsidy for the stipend that's paid to these interns or fresh grads.
Do you know what markets there are? Because there is a local internship opportunity, and then there will be overseas markets that would subsidize.
It's actually just different target groups. So internships mainly targeting local. So the overseas opportunities, if I'm not wrong, targets mainly the fresh grads for companies that are looking to expand overseas. I think there might be some criteria inside as to how much you have to pay these individuals or exactly what the job scope is.
Okay.
Yeah, but you might need to check the website to get a better idea of what the criteria are.
I got it. Okay, so then it would be local fresh graduates that enjoy that station.
Which question?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, got it.
No problem.
Okay, got it. Yeah, there's a few questions on the chat.
Okay.
What are the renewal conditions for Entrepass for the first and the second year? That's the first question.
So let me just try and take this question. If not, my colleague at the back will take it. But basically, based on my limited understanding, it's there's a minimum business spending for the company, and also you need to minimally hire one local employee. That's for the first. So basically, the renewal is also done in blocks of 2 years. Okay, never mind. I think it's coming. This is Jun Hui, by the way.
Hi everyone. So maybe for the Entrepass section, right? If I'm not mistaken, the questions is actually on how the renewal is being considered. So how Entrepass renewals are considered is on a 1+1+2 sort of renewal modality. For it to be
yeah.
So for someone to be considered eligible for requirements, renewal requirements, at the onset of the first renewal, you just have to be registered in Singapore with 30% local share, 30% shareholdings by the founder in question. So that's basically it. Subsequently, as we move on, the requirement is look towards the scale, or rather what is needed to grow the company. So what you are spending on the company, business spending, as well as what you are using to scale the company up. So in terms of manpower. So 2 requirements on business spending and manpower. So as to the exact numbers, there are specifics, and I probably can explain a little more later through, I guess, through the website or anything else. But just need to take note that there are 2 requirements that is looked at, either the business spending or the manpower. So this is as opposed to the other book passes where they look more at salary, where we focus more on the developments of the company, resources used to develop the company. Yeah, so that's basically it.
Yes. Thank you.
There's a follow-on question.
Oh, follow-on question.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, sorry. Not really follow-on question, but more of just in general. Are there any grants accessible to maybe foreigners such as Entrepass holders who might not necessarily have a minimum, does not meet the minimum local shareholding?
Unfortunately, a lot of our grants require 30% local shareholding. I believe that the Global Tech Talent Alliance actually is something that foreigners can also tap on. because it's basically just partnerships at a slightly subsidized or corporate rate that our partners have very nicely given to Enterprise Singapore. But besides that, I believe that everything requires a minimum local shareholding, unfortunately.
I think employment grant is.
Yes, yeah. So the Entrepass.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the exception you said without?
The Global Tech Talent Alliance. So it's basically the one that helps for offshoring. Any other questions?
It's the same one.
There seems to be a lot online.
Yeah, not much left.
Any other questions from people on the ground? Yes.
For the global scheme whereby you can do market research assistance, why is there no Malaysia?
As in for the GIA.
Why is there no Malaysia, especially Kuala Lumpur?
I think maybe, I'm not too sure. They are probably like expanding based on market demand. So I'm not too sure if something is upcoming, or maybe they couldn't find the right in-market partner.
Yeah.
But I think that Malaysia, being very close to Singapore, could be a potential market that they explore, just that it's not ready at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for the market readiness gap, I saw that you have $100,000 per company per country. So you mentioned that you have multiple countries.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So then, what's the cap on that? Or whether
I believe there's no cap to the number of countries that you can expand into with the market readiness assistance grant. So how the 100 Ks work is that there are also sub-components. So you, just now on the slide, there are 3 components, right? So if you read in greater detail on the website, there's actually a sub-cap for each component. So you cannot exceed the sub-cap for each component.
So then, for the components, would that be like business development?
Yeah, so it's actually the 3 components that are listed on the website. Just that in total, it's up to 100K. Yeah. No problem.
Follow-up question. I'm not sure whether it's about Entrepass, I assume it is. At the end of 12 months, the renewal, does it require 30% local shareholding? And then at the end of the 24 months, is it about business spending and manpower? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, essentially yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yes, that's the answer.
Sorry, I'm really not familiar with
Yeah.
it. So, like, just to give you some context, like Enterprise Singapore, our team that looks at the Startup SG grants and also like other schemes like GIA, we have close to like 50 people. So how it works is that we actually look at different program schemes. So that's why I'm not really expert in every single program.
Okay, this one, actually, all these questions, a lot of these questions can be Googled.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. Actually, you shouldn't ask this kind of question. Because this kind of question can be Googled easily. Don't even need to ask ChatGPT.
It's okay, I'll try my best to address all these questions.
For the grants that we disburse, are there any trends in terms of on the deep tech side, in terms of what kind of deep tech startups, what kind of deep tech sectors are we more likely to fund? Whether is it through Seeds Capital's Startup SG Equity or Startup SG Tech? What's the trend looking like in terms of like funding deep tech startup via ESG?
Actually, I would like to add a follow-up to that one as well. I saw a lot of deep tech and green tech, clean tech, water tech, that kind of names in that, nothing else. So is there a, like, internal focus now, X% should go there only and rest is left for everything else?
Oh, no, actually we do support different pillars for deep tech. So broadly it's manufacturing, so about the manufacturing sector. Another sector that we support is the healthcare and biomedical sector. Another one is sustainability, so that's why all the green tech falls under this sustainability, but beyond green tech we also support other aspects of sustainability. And the last one,
is it transport and mobility?
Transport and mobility,
I think so.
something along those lines. So actually there's a few pillars that we support, and another trend that we've been noticing is that agri-tech and food tech is something that's becoming more popular in Singapore and also amongst investors. So I would say that if you're in these kind of like broad sectors, we still do support you via Seed Capital.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't hear anything about consumer tech, enterprise
So
tech.
consumer
What
tech,
are they out of focus?
yeah, so those actually fall under general tech. So unfortunately, it's not under Seeds Capital's domain unless the technology in terms of like digital solutions is proprietary or there's some sort of scalability to it. But generally, Seeds Capital mainly focuses on the deep tech portfolio. Yeah. So if you're talking about general tech, there are
I
other.
mean, generally, all the slides. I mean, we heard big tech, we heard green tech. We didn't hear anything else.
So actually, all the other schemes actually also support general tech. Yeah. Just that for the investment side, which is Seeds Capital, they primarily invest into deep tech startups.
Yeah.
There's one on live stream, but I'm not sure if the person is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a question that's typed
Question
out?
from
No, not yet.
question from the
Oh,
IG
yes.
Live.
So the question is, I would like to know the willingness of Enterprise Singapore to support social enterprise startups. Maybe what are the
Yeah.
applicable support?
So if you're a first-time entrepreneur looking, you can consider the Startup Founder Grant. We do support social enterprises, startups that are innovative, they have innovative solutions. And we also have partners that primarily focus on social enterprise. For instance, SUSS, Singapore University of Social Sciences, is a partner that we also work with under the Startup Founder Scheme, and they are one of our AMP partners. So you can actually look for them if you have any social enterprise solutions and you would like to get, and if you qualify for the criteria for the 50K grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, any more last questions?
It's okay, you can find me later. Or my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Hilary, and to all of you for the questions. We've spoken a lot about the different types of grants and schemes available and how it's tailored fit to our business. To your businesses, such as Global Ready Talent Program, T-UP, and Innovation and Enterprise Fellowship Program schemes, and many, many more. Thank you so much for the robust discussion that we've had, and to taking the time off from your busy schedules to spending your evening with us. But before you go, I thought you might be interested to know what's next from here. So to ensure that you are kept up to date with all the latest developments and events, so please make sure you subscribe to all of our channels here, because this is where we actually post a lot of the events, updates, upcoming Funding Insight series, and materials, all from these channels. So I'll give you a bit of time to scan the QR code, or you could, if it's hard to scan the QR code, then maybe you can type in the link, the URL over there. Okay, is everybody okay? Cool. So finally, onto our last slide. For what's coming, we have an open AI talk by Microsoft, and we are actually inviting the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft to speak to us on how to harness AI, open AI, to transform the digital aspects of your business. So I will leave it as that as a teaser. So if you're interested, please also scan the QR code, or if you can't scan it, then you could also add in you could type in the URL just at the bottom over here. And on the middle of the slide, we have our Move for Hope event, which is a charity initiative to clock miles and essentially to donate the proceeds to all our beneficiaries. So if you're interested in that, it is also in the same QR code. And last but not least, for avid runners or anybody who just simply wants to get back into the exercising zone after a long time since the pandemic, you could join us on our weekly Friday run to exercise, or just simply to network and go and make friends. And we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. Thank you so much. Right now we're going to open up our networking segments, and there are a lot of refreshments awaiting you outside here. Oh yeah, can we take a photo please? So maybe you might want to gather up here so we can take a group shot and then we can...
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We just
Everyone just sit here.
Okay.
I will stand here.
That's fine.
Yes. I will stand here.
we just
You want to join the photo?
Okay, camera next sorry. So, I want you guys to just squeeze towards the center. If you are sitting on the sides, please move towards the center. So that we can everyone. I think for you also, you want to sit behind.
Is that a lot of space?
It's okay, you can take that picture.
Oh. Do we look good? Should we squeeze more?
You'll be out of frame.
Come on. Join.
Oh, I go there, sir. I'll go there.
Okay.
Is this the screen is imperfectly?
It's all right.
All right, smile, big smiles. 1,
Everyone.
2, 3.
One more. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much. The floor is still open. Please join us for refreshments outside. And if you have any questions, please just reach out to any one of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to help, can help this.